Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It, in which we finally tackle The Prisoner of Azkaban, which I was supposed to do last week, but I got distracted with Once Upon a Time. Sorry, not sorry. But here we are. And Prisoner of Azkaban is my favorite movie as of now. While we continue watching the movies and talking about them, we'll see if that changes. But as of now, Prisoner of Azkaban is my favorite movie. It's my favorite adaptation. It's not my favorite book, but it's up there. And so I really, really, really enjoyed making this episode. I enjoyed rewatching the movie for this episode. So it's kind of funny actually that I just don't have that much to say about it. Like this one is shorter than the other videos, which shocked me. I thought I would be talking endlessly about it, but I think it all comes down to just basically being repetitive. Like, there's no need to listen to an hour of me just saying I like it, you know? So, yeah, let's just see what it is. Dun 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 dun. Like right out of the gate, we already have a plot hole. And as much as this is one of my favorite Harry Potter movies, I'm just gonna have to point these kind of things out because we have to be objective about it, right? So the movie starts with Harry practicing a spell. He's trying to do his homework, I guess, and he's practicing this spell, and immediately you're like, okay, but isn't this illegal? Like, shouldn't he be receiving an owl any second about how he's about to be expelled from Hogwarts for doing magic outside of school and in the presence of muggles? And, if you ask that question, you would 100% be right. Yes, he should. And the fact that he isn't is a big plot hole. Yes. I love it. First of all, I love it when Harry gets mad. I love angry and like moody Harry. I really enjoy him. I think it's when Daniel Radcliffe does his best acting. But I also just really love this scene when Aunt Marge just starts to balloon up because first of all, Vernon's expression is hilarious. Where he's like crying in the background. He's just like, oh no, oh no. And then Petunia is just like, as I mean, I don't know. I think it's just the best way to start this movie. If the second movie jumped right in with the action, this one I don't even know what to say about this one. It's like right out of the gate, we're 4 minutes in and there's already drama, there's magic, it's comedy, and I don't know, it's so much faster than the second movie, which was already so much faster than the first movie. And I'm not sure if this is a trend we'll see, but maybe it's just me. I'm partial to stories that start quickly. I don't like really long, drawn out beginnings unless it's done like really, really well. And because there are a lot of child actors and stuff in these movies, I think it's better when things are just happening quickly and it's dramatic and whatever. So safe to say, I really enjoy this first scene with Aunt March. Oh my god, Petunia it might be the funniest person in this show. She's just there waving at Marge. Like her husband is on the ground screaming, Marge! And she's just slowly waving, like, oh my lord. I'm not gonna do too much comparison with the books on this one. But I just have to say that in the book, when Harry decides to leave, he packs his stuff and he's leaving. He says, "I've had enough." I'm leaving. And I'm like, you know what? You have had enough, Harry. Like, it's been 13 years of this nonsense. And, like, you've put up with these people and all of their abuse all of that time. Well, it's been 12 years, 12 years, but still, that's a long time. And he spent 2 years at Hogwarts understanding that his life actually doesn't need to suck that badly. And now he's just like, you know what, though? I've had enough. And I feel it. I'm like, you're a boss, leave. Stick it to them, man. You don't need to take this. Good for you. And a quick add-on that actually this is I think I'm pretty sure this is the first time we actually see Harry's temper. He does have a temper. I think this is the first time that we actually see him lose it. Like, he's not thinking clearly. He's not, trying to be a hero or anything like that. He's just lost his temper and he acts out. I think this is the first time we start to see kind of that. And you know what? It's a pretty apt time because he's 13 and he's a teenager. So, that's when they become moody and stuff. So, yeah. Okay. I think I've got why this movie is considered one of the best because it plays on two contrasting emotions, I suppose. It's comedy and it's thriller. It's not horror really, but it's like, gets your heart racing a little. It's just scary enough. But then it's such a comedy. Like, the entire scene with Aunt Marge, and then you have this. And then no, first it's the entire scene with Aunt Marge, and then you have the dog, which is scary. And they set it up with, like, the playground, spooky things are moving all of a sudden, like in horror movies when there's a poltergeist or something. That's the vibe we get. And then this dog comes on, you're like, oh, and then the night bus shows up, and it's like, is it the Knight bus? I'm gonna call it the Knight bus. And then it's comedy again with Ernie and Stan, and like hard comedy. It's like stupid slapstick type stuff, which you would not be expecting. And then, so it keeps flipping back and forth in this movie. And I think that's why we enjoy it so much, because it's just such a roller coaster. And everything is done so well, honestly. Like, the dark parts are dark. There's no comedy that undercuts the fear and the tension. And there's no fear in the comedy part of it. It's very separated. I love it. It's amazing. Alfonso Cuaron honestly, he did a fantastic job. The effects of this movie as well are just amazing. The effect of this movie, plus the music, everything put together really gives it this weird, like, the first two were magical, like a whimsical, childish kind of imagination of what magic would be like. This one is like really weird and I love it. Like, it's not super dark like it gets in the later movies. It's still, obviously this is a comedy scene, so it's still like funny, quirky kind of magic, but it's like cooler in a way. It's cooler. Like, the way he slows down he seems to slow down time, honestly. And the whole bus just kind of narrows and everything. Like, the way it's done is really good. The effects are holding up. This scene with Harry and Mr. Weasley might actually be one of the scenes in this movie that I would use to argue why it's one of the best in the series. Because, and this is like technically, right? Not even talking about enjoyment wise or as an adaptation or story or anything like that. I'm just talking about this guy, Alfonso, and how he directed and how he brought this story to life in a way that no other director has was able to do before him and has done after him. And I think that there's a video that I'm going to link that goes into it properly in a way I can't. and really explains this scene particularly and why it's so good. But I'm just gonna say that it's about actual life in the movie. You know what I'm saying? Creativity in camera work, movement in scenes where people are not just standing and talking to each other, or the camera is not static. While even if the people are moving, the camera itself is not static. There's movement, there's life, there's energy, there's a feeling to it that makes us feel like a real thing, like you're taking you're being taken through the scene, through the space. Everywhere is being utilized. Something is happening everywhere. It makes it feel real and lived in, and just so much better experience to have than the previous ones and the ones after it, for sure the ones after it. So yeah, I'm gonna link that theory, and please, please, please check that one out because it is fantastic and it breaks down a lot in terms of the different. It's not just about this movie; it's about all the movies and the directors and what they brought to the table and what was lacking. And this scene is in there, and it is great. So highly, highly recommend. Please check it out, and I think it'll help you understand why this movie is one of the best. What to say about this scene? I don't even know. It has the classic thriller, like horror movie build up, where it starts with small things that kind of take us out of the comfort that we're in, and then slowly bring us into this uneasy state. We don't know what's going on. The characters don't know what's going on. It's cold, it's dark, all the things you need to scare children. So if you had any doubt that this was a scary movie, it ends the second you see the Dementor's fingers. All right, that just tells you this movie. You were not prepared, and you did not prepare your kids, and it's a shocker. But as for the scene itself, I don't even know what to say. It's so good. They don't tell you much in it. It's visual and auditory. It's just watch what's happening and be scared. It's a scene that we just needed to know that the Dementors are dangerous, particularly to Harry, and that there is a way to get rid of them. And that's all that they tell us in this scene. So that later on, there doesn't need to be a lot of exposition. Um, and we don't even really need to know what they are. I don't think they tell us what they are. They just say like it's a very dark creature. Um, and that's all we need to know, honestly. But yeah, that scene sticks in your mind. My God. And then the next one where they get chocolate. I feel the urge to eat chocolate every single time I watch this movie, and it's just because of this. Because I remember how freaked out I was by the Dementors when I was watching this as an innocent child, and I remember seeing that chocolate makes them feel better. And then so every time I watch it, I'm like, I preemptively need chocolate so that I don't get so scared watching this movie. I love scenes like this where Harry just is a child. I don't think I see them often, but he's just so, like, scenes where he's just goofing off. Nothing comes in to disrupt it. He doesn't get bad news. He's not attacked or anything like that. It's just him goofing off, having fun. It's so wholesome and necessary to remember, like, especially in a movie where, this movie particularly, where he has to find happiness. It's really a fight between the darkness and this empty, hollow feeling of sadness and joy. And for someone who has so little joy in his life, I think it was really smart to have these kinds of scenes in here to show us that, yeah, his life is hard, but also he's creating his own happiness. And these are the things that push him forward. And so I just find it so cute. And I think I can just imagine how much fun the kids were having doing these kinds of scenes where they actually just get to be kids. But I really like it. I love it for Harry specifically. And then would you look at that? I mean, this is genius. This is a genius movie. They go from that lighthearted, fun kids scene, and then they pull away, and outside is the Dementors, and it's raining, and it's dark, and we know they're cold, and they're the ones that suck out happiness, and it's like they're just watching. They're just on the outskirts. Like Harry's happiness never lasts. It's like a visual representation of like he's happy in this moment in this bubble, but when you pull out and you see the bigger picture, it's always danger, it's always darkness and loss and sadness just waiting to come around. It's crazy. The fact that, okay, first of all, but let's actually talk about the fact that Neville's greatest fear in the entire world is Professor Snape, considering that his parents were tortured into madness by a Death Eater. He's not scared of a Death Eater. He doesn't imagine a Death Eater. He doesn't imagine Voldemort and all the crazy creatures that roam the magical world. And Neville is a scaredy cat. He's scared of like everything. But like his greatest fear is a professor. Please. And people want to try and tell me that Snape was redeemed at the end because we found out he loved Lily. Like, no, he was not. Parvati's sphere is a massive snake, which fair enough. I think it's a cobra or something. Fair enough. But then she turns it into those Jack in a Box type things, and I don't think that's funny. Those things are terrifying. They're like in every horror movie ever, and the way it's moving and the way it's smiling and everything. Oh, but I want to talk about this because of the transition, and there isn't any like scene change. They don't stop the action in order for something scary to happen. It's a slow, you just watch this thing slowly, and then only because of the music does it become ominous. I think those things are scary already, but let's say if other people think that they're funny, but anybody will be able to feel it. Like I'm not scared when I look at it. I just don't think it's funny. But as the scene progresses and the music changes, you can actually feel the mood change as well, and it's no longer funny, it's scary, and it's like that the thing itself is about to like start that creepy horror movie laugh or something. It's gonna come to life and like swallow Harry or something. I don't know, but it's just subtle enough that they don't have to set up a whole new scene, or nothing has to like explode, or Dementors don't have to appear out of nowhere or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's not a jump scare type thing. It's a slow, gradual change that we feel. Like we feel the tension building. It's just brilliant. I don't know. This movie. I haven't mentioned this yet, but I will now. Harry's hair finally looks like it's supposed to. And I don't know why they don't keep it this way. I mean, obviously they could. He's like this for the whole movie. And I think the next one, his hair is long as well and messy anyway. But in this one, it looks, they always talk about how his hair is shaggy and sticking up in every direction. And this is perfect. Like he looks amazing in this movie. I don't know why they don't do this throughout. Here we go. Go again. Jesus. Okay. I have said this in every Harry Potter video so far, and here we are again. This one is not so much a switching of lines as it is just a gross character destruction. All right. We have another one coming up that I'm going to talk about, which is a switching of lines from Ron to Hermione. But in this scene where Snape takes over Lupin's class, teaching them about werewolves because he's just so sneaky like that, and they have him, he tells Hermione that he asks Hermione, do you just take pride in being an insufferable know-it-all? And for some reason they have Ron say that he's got a point, which is just no. Like Ron would never ever take Snape's side in anything, even if he is right. Even though Ron stays saying that Hermione is a know-it-all and insufferable, he would never admit that he agrees with Snape. And in the book, he gets really mad about it. Like, really mad about it. He's like, why ask her if you don't want to get an answer? Why ask the question if you don't want to get an answer? That's Ron. He's a fierce, fierce friend. And as much as he fights with Hermione, he would never let someone... It's like those things where it's like an older sibling picks on their younger sibling endlessly. But like someone else picks on their sibling and it's like, who do you think you are? You know, only I can do that. That's the kind of thing it is. Like, he would never agree with... And Snape of all people. And I don't understand why they would put this in here. Like, why even have him say anything at all? You'd rather just have Snape tell her this and move on. Nobody says anything and that's the end. I don't know why they like dragging Ron down to this weird character where it's like he's like comedic sidekick, I don't know, kind of worthless guy. And that's not him at all. And I hate it so much. At this point, do I even have to say anything? I mean, all I have to say is Quidditch. I mean, if you've watched my first video, you understand how I feel about Quidditch in these movies. And so I'm just going to say Quidditch. Quidditch continues. Look at this. Her broom catches fire. This guy is struck by lightning. Struck by lightning. I mean, Quidditch. That's it. Showing us awkward scenes like these between Ron and Hermione, are an example of why it is so hard to believe that they love each other, and why people are more willing to ship like Hermione and Harry. Personally, I don't ship anybody in the Harry Potter series, but Ron and Hermione, like, I can understand the like enemies to lover thing that everybody loves, but they just don't do it well because they always fight and they never show us a scene where they enjoy each other's company, or where it starts to change, where it's like they kind of just enjoy arguing with each other because that's how they like bond or something, you know? Like, it doesn't move from genuine irritation with each other to playful banter. It just is always they're always irritated with each other. It was angry with each other, and then all of a sudden, boom, actually they have a crush on each other, and that's why they're fighting now. It's weird, and this is the beginning of it, you know, like just showing they're so awkward even just standing next to each other. They're like, oh, you just touch my hand, like that's super weird, or something. And I don't know, it's weird. I used to try and do this a lot when I first started watching these movies. I used to just close my eyes and try to think of a memory, a happy memory, like my happiest memory ever. And I can't come up with anything. Like, even now, if I was to try, I mean, of course, I can think of times when I've been happy, but like, and I try and think of something that filled me with so much joy that I'd be able to cast the spell. I don't know if I've yet been able to come up with one that is good enough. And so it got me thinking about like just generally why this spell is so hard to do. And I think that's what it is. I think for most people, we tend to have, you know, pretty happy lives. Like, of course, bad stuff happens to us and sad things and so on. But on the whole, we're pretty happy. And so picking out a particular moment in our lives that we were the happiest is it's really difficult, which is why this spell, not a lot of people can do this spell. And not just do the spell, but like produce a corporeal Patronus. So I think like for Harry, well, first of all, he's just genuinely gifted in defense against the dark arts, and he's a powerful wizard. So there's that. But I also think that having lived such a horrible life with the Dursleys, picking out a moment, he started feeling joy recently. You know what I mean? He only has to sift through 3 years of memories. And even in those times, it's still pretty bad stuff happened. You know, his first year, he faced Voldemort at the end of it. His second year, well, his second year was crazy because it was like torture in the halls, and his best friend was petrified. It was crazy. And then he faced Voldemort again, and so he doesn't really have that much to go off of. And so picking a memory that makes him happy, and in comparison to the life he's been living, is easier than it is for us regular folk, which is very sad. It's so sad. It's just one more thing that shows you how awful Harry's life has been, and so unnecessarily, but that's a story for another day. Hermione punches Draco. This isn't in the books, and it is brilliant. I think it is a great change to make in the movie. Addition. It's a great addition for this movie. I think it just it's like, okay, I'm not gonna hit you with a spell of which she knows many, but something has to be done, and she just bow. I love it. And not a slap, a punch. Isn't it crazy that the Minister for Magic is a part of discussions about the beheading of a hippogriff? Like, this man has so much to do. Sirius Black is on the loose. Why is he involved in this at all? Like, there's a department for the regulation of magical creatures or something like that. Shouldn't that person be the one who's here? I mean, Fred shouldn't be here. This is the most foolish of shenanigans that I have ever witnessed. Oh my lord. This is just okay. So Hermione rides the Whomping Willow and then is able to pick up Harry by his shirt, fly through the air with him, and while she's still holding on to the Whomping Willow, by the way, and then throw him through this tiny opening under the tree, and then somehow jump off and slide through as well. Like, no, I'm sorry. This is a world with magic. Like, they should have had her use her wand to levitate him or something. That would be more believable than this. I don't know. I'm gonna have to deduct some points for this scene. And here we are. Here we are again. Okay, I'm just gonna say what it is and move on. I'm not gonna even say what I feel about it because clearly we all know. Hermione says, if you want to kill Harry, you'll have to kill us too. And I'm like, okay, fine. But it's Ron who says that, actually. Ron, who is bleeding and in so much pain, he can barely even stand up, but he tries and he fights to get in front of Harry. And he's like, if you want to kill Harry, you have to kill us. And that is Ron. He's in so much pain. His leg has almost been bitten off, but he's standing in front of Harry like, no way, we're not going to let you kill him. Why wouldn't they just let him do it? I don't know. You know, it's only in moments like these where you realize how deprived we've actually been of like top-notch dialogue. You know, because we've been watching kids movies, and you don't expect much from kids movies. You know, you get what you need to get, the information that you need. They say what they need to say. But like in these, oh God, it's just three brilliant actors coming together to create a short but just so entertaining, so clever, and so telling as well. Like, you really get the character building, like character information from this scene, from the way they all act in this scene. You know, you can understand this history here. If you've never read the books, you can tell like there's something, more between, like, these people know each other well. They're not strangers, and this tension it's like coming out in a familiar sort of way, like they're used to having these sort of arguments. And I just could watch this scene over and over and over again. Just the way it's fast paced dialogue, which I love.
Severus, don't be a fool. He can't help it, it's habit by Sirius, be quiet! Quiet yourself, Remus! Listen to you two quarrelling like an...
Delivered amazingly by all three of them, by Snape, by Sirius, and by Lupin. And they're still giving off, the emotion they're supposed to have in this moment, but there's the undertones, where Snape is like,
give me a reason. I beg you, Severus.
It's like it's more than just he wants to catch Sirius Black, and since if you've never read the book, you don't know why. And it's just enough curiosity, we know Snape is like this, but it's like a bit more animosity, even in he's telling Lupin, I told Dumbledore that you were helping your old friend. It's just subtleties, and I love it. Intelligent dialogue is my weakness. It just makes me fall in love with whatever it is I'm watching, even if it really may not be that great. But this is great. This plot twist was so crazy. Like, you're telling, like, seriously, not just any rat, but Scabbers. Scabbers? Jesus Christ. It's like, what? You see, like, how Ron just looks? He just sits. He's like, how do you even process that? I've been living with a transfigured man for the past, his entire life. It's just, I don't even know how J.K. Rowling came up with this stuff, man. It's just mind-blowing. Just, okay, listen to what Ron is saying in the background here as Harry walks to Sirius.
Very painful.
So painful. They might chop it.
And she's like, no, I bet Madame Pomfrey can fix it in a heartbeat. And he's like,
it's too late. It's ruined. It'll have to be chopped off.
Like, what? Why do they do this to Ron? I don't know, man, but it's funny. At least in this moment, it's funny. This transformation is gnarly, dude. Oh my god. I forgot. Like, why are the effects holding up so well, honestly? I mean, frankly, this is a better transformation than you see in most of these TV shows about werewolves. It's so real. It's like, ooh. Oh Lord, have I mentioned that I really love Scared Ron? Like, first in the last movie with the spiders, and now it's just so funny because he's just muttering under his breath. First he's like, bad idea. And then when it doesn't work, he starts muttering,
Stop it. Stop it.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this Ron, but like he has his moments. This Dumbledore, I think, is the closest we get to the Dumbledore that I love. The one that is like weird, like he says things and people are just like, what? The calm voice and the I know everything sort of thing. Like, you don't really need to explain anything to him. He just knows, I like that. And I think this is just proof that it's not the actor's fault. It's actually just direction. Like, whichever directors were telling him to shout all the time, and it happens in this movie as well. He does shout when the painted lady gets attacked. But I think just being able to show this side as well makes me like him more. Like, it kind of gives you a glimpse of the Dumbledore that we deserved. This is the Dumbledore we should have had all the way through. And it kind of reminds me that I don't actually hate Dumbledore. Like, I think we tend to focus on all the things that were wrong with the Dumbledore that we got, that we forget there were actually moments where it did a pretty good job and actually portrayed a different side to Dumbledore. I think that the way time travel works in this movie is the only acceptable way. I'm typically not a fan of time travel as a solution to a problem presented in a movie because it just kind of feels like a cop out. So that means I don't really love Avengers Endgame, but I think the way it works here in Harry Potter, the way it's like everything always happened that way. So when you go back in time, it's like you're not really changing anything. You know what I mean? Like things always happen that way. So the first time we think that they killed Buckbeak, but we never actually see them do it. So it's not like the first time we watch them behead Buckbeak and then the second time he just smashes a pumpkin. It's that the first time we're seeing it from their perspective, and so we see the axe thing go down, and we think he's killing Buckbeak, but he isn't actually. And the second time we just get to see that. And if you watch it the first time, you can actually see like Dumbledore and Hagrid going back in the house before he even does it, which is when they're like, well, I guess he's gone. I don't know what to do here. Let's go back and have a cup of tea. That's what we see the second time. And the first time, if you watch the scene closely, you can actually see them go back in the house. And so this way, it feels like you're just watching from a different perspective. You're not actually watching everything you already watched be undone, which is the only way that I feel is entertaining. Otherwise, it's just like a cop out, it's like you couldn't figure out a way out of your situation. And so you're just like, well, let's go back in time and change it, which I don't like. I wish they had included a line that just explained in the movie why both Sirius and Lupin know about the map and how to work it. Because like I don't think they ever tell us in the movies that they're the ones who made the map. I think it would have been cool for Harry to have that moment where it's like even now if you just be like, Professor, how do you know how to, like when he says mischief managed, right? You'd be like, Professor, how did you know that? And you'd be like, who do you think wrote the map? And then just like so you can be like, whoa. Because Lupin is super cool, but then this is the other thing. I have a little bit of a problem with Lupin because Sirius has been in Azkaban for the past 12 years, so I understand why he wasn't there for Harry. But Lupin is supposed to be his father's best friend, and he says that Lily was there for him when no one else was. And yet 12 years, he never goes to see Harry, he never checks up on him, he never stops by to make sure he's not living the awful life that he was. Like, why not? Your best friends were just killed, and the person who was supposed to protect them is the one who led to their death, in your opinion. Your other best friend, Wormtail, has also been killed. And so you're thinking, I mean, surely he should have been checking up on Harry, you know what I mean? Like, he'd be thinking, he should have been thinking, I'm all he has left. But apparently not. I don't know. That's what keeps me from really loving Lupin, because it's just like, I don't know. The guy's life is hard. Don't get me wrong, I understand that, but I just feel like he could have done more for Harry. And even now, he kind of disappears from his life again. And it's so obvious that Harry needs someone, Like, he was willing to jump at going to live with Sirius. He doesn't even know Sirius. But the second he realized he was innocent, he was just like, anything is better than living with the Dursleys. And that is so sad. That said, Lupin is a great character. He's actually clever, he's funny. He's exactly what Harry needs. That's what Harry needs in his life. He's such so likable, he's like the anti-Snape. um so I really like him as an addition to this story. I wish we had more of him. Definitely in the movies. We definitely needed more of him in the movies. I like that a movie that was so dark and heavy, and especially for Harry, that was filled with so much disappointment towards the end. I like that they ended it with this happiness. I think it was I think Alfonso is trying to tell us something. I just think it's necessary. Like, bad things happen, but you always have to find joy wherever you can. And I think that's brilliant. I think it's a really, really good ending. A lot of people say that it's like cringy the way they end it on his face and it's like stretched and stuff, but I just like it because poor Harry never gets that much happiness, like I keep saying. And I think it's just important that this movie specifically, which is dark and about darkness and fear, I think it's brilliant that they ended it on him being so ecstatic and happy, like full of nothing but happiness. So perfect ending. I think I like this movie mostly because the themes are a little bit like one of the first ones where the themes are a little bit more than just good versus evil. In the first two, it's courage, doing the right thing, that sort of thing. And it's just very basic, like good versus bad, which is not a bad thing. It's a kid's movie after all. But this one doesn't really have that. It's not about Voldemort. I mean, it is because obviously all of this is happening because of Voldemort, but it's not about Harry defeating him. It's just showing like how horrible things got and how much, like, it's not just that his parents died, it's that friendships were ruined. It kind of depicts like the people that were actually lost. Like, yes, Harry is an orphan because of it, but James and Lily were people. They were somebody's best friend, somebody's son, somebody's daughter, sister. And I think this is the first time that they actually get into that, for Harry to actually feel that loss in more than just and so he has to live with the Dursleys way. It's deeper than that, and it's about trying to find in all of this sadness and hardship and, like I keep on saying, fear. It's about finding the good, staying good when the circumstances around you can force your hand to be bad. Like Sirius is a good guy. He was a good guy. And his best friend got killed and he got locked up in Azkaban for it. And now he's out and he wants revenge. And it's justified. I don't think anybody would say that if he killed Peter Pettigrew, that wouldn't be justified. I mean, Lupin was ready to let him do it because you understand. Like, he suffered 12 years in prison. Harry had to grow up without him. Everybody thinking that he was a murderer and a betrayer and a supporter of the one guy, like the most evil person that actually ruined his life. And I can just, of course, it's justified that he would want to kill Pettigrew. Lupin wanted to kill Pettigrew, and his life wasn't even ruined by that. So, but it's about this staying good. The fact that Harry doesn't want to kill him, doesn't want them to kill him because he doesn't think his dad would want his best friends to be murderers. That is a different way of looking at it. It's James was a person, and try to remember that. It's not just how sometimes people say, I don't want to be just a statistic. And it's true because, like, you have to think about this person, who they actually were. And that's what I think Harry is to Sirius moving forward. It's like this reminder of his best friend, and their relationship is honestly really sweet going forward, but we'll talk about that later. But basically, that's why I love this movie, because it's just about the way Harry says none of it made any difference. It can feel that way, and it can really be like it was all pointless. It was for nothing. Like we tried and we failed, and bad wins once again. But you just have to kind of think about the good stuff too, you know. You think about the fact that Sirius is free and people now know the truth. Like Dumbledore now knew the truth, which was so important. And Sirius is able to live with himself now because Harry knows the truth. And I like that sort of theme. I like the third book as well. Just even the concept of the Dementors and this thing that just sucks away all your happiness and leaves you feeling empty and hopeless. That's like, it's supposed to be a depiction of depression, if I recall correctly, and how you can just, it feels like this weight on you that you just can't shake off, and you can't even imagine ever being happy again. And it's a kids movie, you know, and you're like, how could you even get this kind of message in a kids movie? But it's hard to see the light, but you just have to. And there's a line from Avatar which there's so many lines from Avatars that blew my mind growing up, but this one relates. It's when Uncle Iroh tells Zuko, in the darkest of times, hope is something you give yourself. And I think that's what this movie is about. It's just about, like, times are dark and they're getting darker. Like, from here, things get worse. So I think this movie was kind of the pivoting point where we stop being a whimsical children's movie where it's just about being good and fighting evil. And now it's about the hard part of that, the dirty work, you know, actually being in it. What does it feel like? It feels heavy. It feels hopeless, and sometimes it feels futile, but you just have to believe in what you're fighting for, in the people that you're fighting for and with, in the memory of the people that you're fighting for who died, in the life that you want to live moving forward. You know, it's just giving yourself that hope. And Harry needed to learn that early, because moving forward it just gets harder and harder, and it needed to be in a movie where he didn't actually have to face Voldemort. You know, it was just it was emotions. He was just fighting his emotions, and I love it. I think that's why I love this movie. I think that's the best way I can explain why it's one of my favorite. Obviously, we'll see. Right now, I would say it is my favorite movie, but let's see moving forward, as I keep watching them, if that holds up. But I think that's the best way I can explain my love for this movie. Thanks for watching.